Hey there, friends, and welcome to Pro Tools Answers, where three certifiable Pro Tools experts and avid instructors discuss, demonstrate, and elaborate on your Pro Tools questions put to the community in the official Avid Support Forum on Facebook. I'm your host, Dave Phillips, audio engineer and lecturer based in the UK. And on today's show, we're going to be looking at playlists and comping. And with me, as ever, are my two friends who, when comped together themselves, make the absolute perfect take. Send your love out to Anders Motz at Tonkraftwerk in Austria.
Hello.
And Andy Hageman, Avid's own manager of all things audio curriculum over in Tokyo. Hello, Andy.
Hey, Dave, how you doing?
oh man, I can hear the compression on that. Crikey. Before we crack on, I just want to give a shout out to our Patreon supporters who generously support us each month. Many thanks to Don, Mike, Matthew, Gregor, Eric, our new supporter Ashbin, and a regular contributor to the Facebook forum, Stephen, who dropped us a donation this week as well. So very many thanks to you guys. We continue to be religiously grateful for your support. If you'd like to support our work at Pro Tools Answers, you can head over to patreon.com/Pro Tools Answers, and you can pick a manageable tier and hopefully lend your support to the show. And if you also wanted to head over to protoolsanswers.com, you can subscribe over there as well. And there may not be anything better out there than Andy writing to you each week.
It's a sad state of affairs if that's the best your week gets.
I really enjoy reading those letters from you, Andy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, he's masterful at it.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. So we're looking at comping and playlists. So would it be right to say that comping is kind of the same as compositing? Is it a shortened version of compositing?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And is this a kind of a thing that's popped over from post into the audio world, or has it always been there?
I think it's been. I think I heard the term comping a track in my music production days. So I would say it's at least music and post. Where it comes from, I think, is lost in the mists of time.
Okay. So comping is basically making one master thing out of various different elements, isn't it? And if I just briefly show my screen, and not to you guys, I'm just going to show everybody else.
Oh, there you go. Well, nice.
Thank you.
So I have a guitar track here, and I have all of these virtual tracks. Basically, I refer to them as virtual tracks. I don't know if anybody else does. But basically, they're alternative tracks that live in the main track, and you can access them through the track view selector and by clicking on playlists, and it opens up basically as many of the alternate takes as you want to work with. Do we have a limit for playlists?
Nope.
There is none.
So unlimited tracks for playlists, and we can basically just record alternate takes alongside the rest of our song, and then when it comes to making up our master take, which is what I've done here, we'll just select various parts of the track and then we'll promote them up to the main playlist, and that's how we'd end up with some of the master recordings that we get these days. Now we've always been doing this kind of thing, haven't we? But we've been splicing it together with tape up until the digital days, anyway.
Right, and before we had such a refined edit playlist workflow. I mean, a lot of folks were using multiple tracks inside of Pro Tools, similar to and they were just dragging stuff around, just like we used to bounce adjacent tracks in tape, in the world of tape. So the workflow, it's one of those workflows in DAWs that was immediately easier than tape, and Pro Tools over the recent the last few years has, I think, taken the workflow and I think made it super, super easy, starting with playlist view, but with a couple other things that we'll talk about today.
So who are we going to jump to first? Who wants to be the hero of our story to begin?
Yeah, Andy, you go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so I'll show my screen, and I just want to tweak a little bit about what Dave said in terms of what a playlist is. And he said virtual tracks, and that's cool. That's fine. But one of the things about edit playlists is that an edit playlist really is no more and no less than a sequence of clips on a track. They share the same other aspects of the track. So, for example, I've got this bass track, and it has all these plugins on it. Now, Dave and Anders, does this bass track have an alternate playlist associated with it?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. How do you know?
Because next to the word bass, there is this little disclosure triangle. And when that's grayed out, that means there is no alternate playlist on the track. But on the track just above that, you have the rhythm comp, which has a blue border or the blue arrow. And that means that there are other playlists.
Okay, and I'm going to stop you right there because there's more you could tell me. I know, because that blue color means something.
Yeah.
So, and Anders, as far as we've gone now, is 100% right, 0% wrong. Is that now here's rhythm comp, which is not really the name of the track. It's the name of the playlist.
Yep.
And I can change this playlist and choose clean from that disclosure triangle. And clean is going to have this sequence of clips on a track. Everything else stays the same. So your sends, your inserts, your inputs and outputs, all the rest stays the same. You're just swapping out the sequence of tracks that you had before and the sequence of tracks that you have right now, which was rhythm comp right here. Now,
yeah, so just to be clear here, you're not actually using up any more voices or anything. It doesn't add anything to it. It's just another version of that recording, so to say. Yep.
Which is why we have limited track count in Pro Tools, but unlimited playlists in Pro Tools, because the playlist, you just swap them out. And anything that you're not using is called an alternate playlist, and anything that you are using is called the main playlist. Okay. Now, I don't know if you noticed it, but when I changed to another playlist, it changed color. And here's where we're going to talk about, I think, the main thrust of this episode. It's a thing called a target playlist. And it's something that a lot of folks overlook, because if you don't go out to work with it specifically, you'll just not notice that it even exists. So I'm going to go up here to Solo Comp, which also has alternate playlists on it, and we know that because we've got a blue button here. And if I go over here and I change it to Take Two, it goes to Take Two, and it turns orange. Now, orange tells me something. It tells me that this is an alternate take, but not something called the target playlist. Now, the target playlist you can set over here, and by default, and this is why most people don't even realize that it exists, by default on a track, your target playlist is whatever your main playlist is at the time. So if I go here, let's go here, change it back. There we go, main playlist. Great. Now Take Two is my main playlist. If I change to Take One, that's my main playlist, and it always stays blue because by default, your main playlist is your target playlist, period, which to me is like the least useful way of working. So what I do, more times than not, is I will identify something that I'm comping to, okay, as a target playlist. So down here on the rhythm comp, you'll see here I've got my target playlist I've set as a specific playlist, and that's rhythm comp. And there's a shortcut for identifying the target playlist, is there not, Anders?
Yeah, there is. So to designate a target playlist, you press Command, Shift, and right arrow. So that's how you the playlist that you're currently at will then become your target playlist.
So now let's go here to the top track, and Take One is my target playlist, and it's set to main playlist. So whatever playlist I'm seeing is my main playlist. Shift, Command, right arrow, bump, and you can see right now it just flashed blue with a little kind of block on it. Okay, that block says target playlist. And so now if I go over here, you'll see that there's a target right there, and that my target playlist has now been changed to Take One. Every other playlist is going to have an orange little chiclet by it. That means it's not my target playlist. Now,
by the way, you're constantly changing the playlists by clicking on that little arrow there, which is great because we can really see what you're doing. Is there a shortcut to change the playlist without clicking with the mouse?
There is. So, of course there is.
I know that.
For everything. So right now, here's rhythm comp, and I can go through the different playlists by holding down the Shift key and using the up and down arrows. So if I go here, you'll see here that I'm going through my different playlists, and I can see which one is my target playlist because my little button will turn blue when it's my target playlist. Okay? So now let's go ahead and figure out how comping works with a target playlist workflow, and we'll start with the menus. So I've got this section. Now, Anders, tell me, using the menu, how would I comp this to the target playlist?
Well, there are two versions of this. Actually, we talked about this just before the show, and I said there's only one way to copy, but there are two different ways to do that. So let's start by copying audio to the target playlist. So meaning leaving the entire clip intact, not cutting out anything. So to copy the selected audio to the target playlist, you hold Shift, Option, and press.
Let's go with the menu first. Before we go with shortcuts, let's go with the menu.
Okay, yeah, so right-click and do copy to.
There you go, right?
And then target playlist.
So you can copy to any playlist you want from here, and you can even see, it turns blue when I change it to target playlist. It's all sorts of visual cues to let you know what you're going to be doing. And the cool thing here about designated target playlist is because the target playlist is kind of always got this natural home. If I copy to, as you said, the target playlist, it will duplicate that selected area and plop it over in the target playlist. If let's go ahead and choose move instead.
Yep.
And I'll change this to, I'll pop this over to the target playlist. So boom, target playlist. And now it cut it out of here. And then if I go to my target playlist, you can see it's over there. Okay, now let's back up and let you do what you wanted to do in the first place, and that's use your shortcuts.
Okay, yeah, so to copy the selected audio to target playlist, you would press Shift, Option, and the up arrow. That's a pretty easy shortcut to remember, I think, so I use it a lot.
So Shift, Option, up arrow, and this is where it really starts to shine when you designate a target playlist, because it only goes to the target playlist. If you didn't have a target playlist, it wouldn't really do much of anything. So Shift, Option, up arrow, boom, and you see there it just flashed to say it just copied somewhere, and now that's a copy. We can see that because this is still here, and the clip is unmolested. But now if I go to my target playlist, then you'll see the two things. Now, there's got to be an easier way for me to get to the target playlist.
Yeah, sure. Dave, do you know the shortcut to move to your to view your target playlist? Do you know that one?
No, I don't.
No, really? Oh, I'm sure you do. So to show your target playlist as your main playlist, hold down Shift and press the right arrow.
And now you can see that I've got these two parts from two different playlists. This one, remember, I cut from the Doug Wimbish one, and this one I copied from, I can't remember which one I copied it from, but there you go. By the way, Shift right arrow goes to the target playlist. Shift command right arrow identifies. Shift option? Sorry, I lost my mind there. What is it to identify the main playlist?
Designate the target playlist is command Shift right arrow. Yep.
Okay, I was right the first time. So Shift command right arrow identifies or designates a target playlist. Shift and right arrow without command will go to the target.
Yeah.
So Shift and right arrow kind of remains constant with those two things. And so if you can, and I think we're going to go into other comping workflows, because there's a lot we could go into.
Just leave it at target playlists today, because there's so much workflows around this. So not to confuse everyone, stick with the target. Yeah.
But this is, and I think that the reason why this is a good one to start with when we talk about comping is target playlist is so powerful, and yet it's so easy to overlook it, because if you don't know of it, and if you don't know to set it up, then you can just blissfully go on just changing playlists and comping from one playlist to another, which is great. But designating a target playlist gives you kind of a home base that you can just immediately get to and immediately copy to without fussing around too much.
Yeah. So Andy, just to repeat here, how do you copy your selection to your target playlist? You remember that one? That was the Shift Option.
Shift Option up arrow.
Up arrow. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So if you want to move something, basically cut out, like you did before, to your target playlist, you do Shift Option T. And I remember that by, like, it's the T for target playlist. So Shift Option T will move your selection to your target playlist.
And that's it's called move, but really what it is, it's a cut and paste.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, rather than a copy and paste. So then you go here, there you go. And it gives you a little check, it gives you a little flash saying we've done it. And then now if I go home, shift right arrow, you'll see that I've got now, 3 different clips gotten in 2 different ways.
Yeah, so you can get silly fast, and you don't have to switch back to check that it's actually arrived. You can go in and comp a piece and just move it to the target playlist, go on, listen to the next part, select another playlist, move that to the target, and once you've been through all of your texts, you should have a comped playlist.
And though it's not directly related to target playlists, don't overlook that shift up and down arrow keys, because man, you could do this while you're playing, right? So let's say we'll just stick with this guy, but you can change playlists while you're playing, and so it's super cool just to be able to get a sense of what's good and what plays. That's no good. You don't have to start and stop. You just keep going. And so it's like Anders says and Davis said, it's what we have gotten here in Pro Tools and in DAWs in general compared to tape is a workflow that's so easy that it would be just a shame not to exploit it.
Yeah, well put, Andy. I love using target playlists. When the function first arrived, I thought it was just messy because there were so many little details with it, copy and moving, and but I've totally implemented that, and it's great for your workflow. Try it out.
Okay, so the last quiz for you guys, because it's in my nature to quiz. How many tracks in this session that you can see have multiple playlists on them? Anybody?
Are you asking us, by the way, or are you asking the viewers?
You could tell because my voice went up at the end. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I can only see the 2 on the screen at the moment.
That's right. So of the ones that you can see, and trust me, you're seeing all the tracks in the session. There are 2 tracks that we know have alternate playlists on the tracks. How many of those tracks are showing me the target playlist?
None
of them.
That's right.
Because they're orange.
Because they're orange, which means it's an alternate playlist, but not the target playlist. It is, however, the main playlist right now because it's the one that's visible. So the main playlist and target playlist are different things. The main playlist is whatever you're hearing right now at this time, right? That's always the main playlist. An alternate playlist can either be a target playlist or not a target playlist. If it's a target playlist, then that button is blue. If it's not a target playlist, then it's this kind of burnt orange, which is a color on that button that most people have never ever seen because they don't set up target playlists.
Yeah. Dave,
is there anywhere else to go?
Only upward. From this point on, we got nothing to do but improve.
Now, but there are so many other workflows around playlists. If you want to know more about playlists, let us know down in the comments, because we can talk for days about this. So let us know.
Yeah, so this has been one of those interesting subjects where every time we jump on a subject, it's in my mind that, there's probably a lot of people that know this kind of thing. There's some people that don't, but this is going to benefit everyone in some little way. I would wager that there's a lot of users out there that have, as I think has been mentioned before, has been something that's completely eluded a majority of us. And I've always done my comping using playlist view. I get it slower. I've always liked that way of working. This is going to be an interesting one to try.
I think this is also one of the functions that people maybe know about, that it exists, but have not looked enough into, so they haven't implemented it into their workflow. And that's also something we'd like to know. Have you implemented this? Are you using target playlist? Let us know.
Yeah.
Type it down there.
Yep. Just below Andy's finger.
Interesting stuff. So if you've enjoyed what we were doing in this video, please hit like, please hit the bell icon. I'll subscribe to the channel first and then hit the bell icon to be notified of all the videos when they drop. The liking of the video really helps YouTube farm out our stuff to other people who might be interested in Pro Tools. So just that like button thing would really, really help us. If you head over to protoolsanswers.com, you can subscribe over there. As we said before, Andy will email you every week with some interesting stuff. And you can support the channel over at patreon.com/Pro Tools Answers. Hopefully you're enjoying what we're doing. Hopefully you're sticking with us. All leaves me to say is thank you very much to Anders.
Thank you.
Let's give a heartily bow to Andy.
Do I touch your mush?
My name's Dave. We'll see you next time. This is Pro Tools Answers, and we're out.